Hello, I am Dr. Meet from Department of English, Government National College, Sissa. In this video, we are going to discuss second chapter of your syllabus, that is of second semester of B.Sc. It's question time by J.B. Narlikar. This is the first video and the chapter would be covered in 2 videos. So let's get acquainted with the author. He is an Indian astrophysicist, so he's a scientist, and all of you being science student, I hope you would be interested in knowing what he has to say. He was a brilliant student and mathematics topper at Cambridge. He served as Barry Ramsay Fellow in King's College, Cambridge University. He is the founder director of Inter-University Center for Astronomy and Astrophysics. He also served as the chairperson of the advisory group for textbooks in science and mathematics published by NCERT. Many of the books you might have read in school. And he is globally known for his work in cosmology and is defender of the steady-state cosmology against the more popular Big Bang theory, the theory that tries to explain the origin of universe. In 1965, he was conferred upon Padma Bhushan, and then in 2004 Padma Vibhushan. He was also awarded UNESCO's Kalinga Award in 1996. It's an international award given by United Nations Educational, Science and Cultural Organization for contributing in the field of science by communicating science to society and promoting or popularizing science. And he was given this award for the popularization of science. And he has done considerable work to promote scientific temper and outlook among the younger generation by creating a substantial body of essays and short stories to debunk means to expose popular superstitions and myths. He has written many books to popularize science. He's a writer in that way, and he has also written science fiction. This essay is based on his own personal experiences, and he aims to promote an attitude of questioning, particularly among children. So let's begin with the text. And he opens the text, the essay, in a very interesting way. Curiosity killed the cat. So what does it mean? This expression is used in English language to warn somebody or stop someone from asking too many questions or unwanted questions. In fact, society in general doesn't like questions, and most of us also do not like questions. So in order to discourage somebody or to warn somebody, you remember? Curiosity killed the cat. In fact, cat is considered to be a very curious animal, and its curiosity lands it in trouble. It's being curious, it tells us, or it's a warning that being curious can lead to dangerous situations, and often used when someone is asking unwanted questions. But there is something in front of you that tells very interesting thing, that curiosity killed the cat, but you are not a cat. You are a human being, so you are supposed to ask questions. You should be asking questions, and you can ask questions. He says curiosity killed the cat. Then he asks another very interesting question. What killed curiosity? And he comes up with an equally interesting answer. The answer is cat. So curiosity killed the cat, and cat killed the curiosity. But what does he mean by cat here? He means C for conformism and teaching. So he says that I'm talking of curiosity in context of school education, of course. So he says there are two things which killed curiosity. Now, what is curiosity? It's a desire to know more. And in order to know more, you ask questions and you seek answers for those questions. You try to find out more. And expressions tell us that this can land you in trouble. But he says that something killed curiosity. that is this desire to ask, know more, or questioning. And what was it? This is conformism. Now, what does conformism means? It means attitudes or behavior that is in accordance with socially accepted conventions, ways, or practices. It means that the way things already are, and there are a set of norms which society agrees upon and which are generally followed when it comes to, for example, behavior or attitudes. You just follow them. Then you are conforming to them, and then you are fitting in, and nobody uh, causes you any trouble, because okay, yeah, you are fine because you are just following the way things are. But curiosity or asking questions means that you are putting a question mark on the way things are. So it has to be opposite of conformism. And if because he is a scientist and he's perhaps thinking of science and scientific development, you cannot be a conformist and be a scientist, because you have to ask questions, and only asking questions or trying to know more and not following what is already there, or we can say just following what is already there, but trying to go beyond that and to know beyond that and create beyond that, invent beyond that, discover beyond that. That is what we are supposed to do. This is how the whole body of knowledge develops. So that's why curiosity is essential, and therefore conformism, which prevents you from going beyond what is that, would kill curiosity. Another thing that kill curiosity, according to the author, is teaching. That is, he blames the teachers, and he says that I am talking about school education, but when it comes to higher education, perhaps you people can judge better. So he says, next he talks about another astrophysicist. He says in his autobiography, the famous astrophysicist Fred Hoyle recounts an episode from his school days. Now, Fred Hoyle is a British mathematician and astrophysicist. But what is important, he was Narlikar's teacher and mentor. In fact, he did his PhD with him. And autobiography means biography is the story of person's life, and when a person writes story of one's own life, it is autobiography. So in his autobiography, he recounts an episode. Recounts mean to tell about something, especially something you have experienced, to tell a story about or narrate an incident. So he narrates an incident from his primary school days. And what is it? His school teacher had told the class that a certain type of flower has 5 petals. Now, young Fred was curious and wanted to check the facts by looking for these flowers. So he went out and tried to know that what is there. Just see for himself that because the teacher has told that this particular flower has 5 petals. So he just wanted to check it. That are there 5 petals in this flower? No, most of us in society, the elders, the teachers, they just want their children or students to accept what they are told. So because I have told you there are 5 petals, you should accept that. But here was the budding scientist, and he just went out. And what did happen? While most did have 5 petals, it was true that most of the flowers of that type had 5 petals. But he came across one that had 6. So he brought it to the attention of the teacher. Now, if you are told something like that, and you come across something like that, that you are told there are 5 petals in this flower, and then you suddenly come across a flower which has 6 petals, what would you do? You come running? Maybe there is another possibility that you may just take off one petal and just show it to the teacher that it has 5 petals, because you don't want that somebody should think that you have found the wrong flower. So in order to prove that you have found the right flower, you might do that, or somebody might do that. And that is conformism, because you want to fit in. But here was the young Fred, and when he found this, he was like excited and just went to the teacher and told him. Now, had there been only 4 petals, one could explain the fact by arguing that one had fallen off. But how do you explain the extra petal? So this could not be wrong, in the sense that the flower was right. It had 6 petals, because if there were 4 petals, you could say, okay, one had fallen off, or there were 3 petals, you could say 2 have fallen off. But you could not make extra petals stick to that flower. So that was all right. It had actually the 6 petals. And when he questioned, when he noticed that the question was the rule of 5 petals wrong? After all, he asked. That was a legitimate question, a reasonable one. But I don't know what your experience is with teacher, but this teacher did not like it, and because he was not used to being so questioned, and responded by boxing the boy's ears. Fred, however, did not take it lying down. Now, what did he do? Box one's ears means to hit someone with your hand on the side of your head, just to punish. So this happens. This is the sad state of affairs, that a child who has courage enough and works and goes out and tries to find out things for himself is punished. But here this person had spirit. So he did not take it lying down. Lying down means to refuse to be treated badly. So he did not surrender to this insult, because he felt something, that this is not the way of answering a legitimate question. He argued and managed to convince his mother that she should change his school. Legitimate means reasonable here. Otherwise, it can also means according to law or according to the rule, but here it means according to the logic or reasonable. So this was not the way a legitimate or a reasonable question should be answered. The teacher should have looked into the matter, that how this exception came to be, or are there many more flowers like that, or something like that. But he was punished for that. And maybe if there would have been any other students, he would have been discouraged from asking questions. Many of the students, in fact, are discouraged from asking questions by such treatment, as they are punished. And slowly we stop asking questions. In fact, we will lose confidence. When a question comes to our mind, we start thinking, is it wrong? Am I wrong? Is there something wrong with me? Am I abnormal? I am asking this question. Nobody is asking this question. And society also most of the time treats people, such people, as if they were abnormal. So that's how they are discouraged from asking questions. But here his mother was a sensible woman, and she, being a sensible woman, she listened to her child, and changed his school. So this is how, in general, the students are discouraged when they ask questions. And he says, so far as putting a lid on a child's curiosity is concerned, Indian schools have been no different, because he's talking about his mentor's school, that is in London, or in England, but he says our schools are no different when it comes to putting a lid on the child's curiosity. Putting a lid on means stop something from growing. And we do it well. We also do the same thing in our schools, that we put a lid on that. We stop them from asking questions, and we do not let their curiosity grow, because this curiosity would make them eager to learn. Now children are encouraged, but they are encouraged to do, rather than asking questions, they are encouraged to memorize the text as well as the answers to the questions raised therein, regardless of whether they understood the subject matter or not. Now I think you all are aware of, you just experience it. You're part of that system. I am part of that system, where whether a student know or understand a text or not. There is a system where there are set number of questions, and there is a set pattern of answers which you are supposed to learn, memorize, and reproduce in the answer, reproduce in your examinations, and you score accordingly. So this is what he says, that a common student is supposed to do in our educational system, and their schools hardly provide suitable outlets to their spontaneous questions in case they didn't, and if they do not understand something. For example, if there is a doubt or question, there is no outlet. Outlet means or a way of expressing one's talent, energy, emotions. Here, of course, doubts and questions. So there is no way that they should be able to express their doubts or raise their questions. In our school system, in our education system, there is no such outlet. A spontaneous mean happening naturally. So what naturally comes to their mind, um, there is no way of expressing it, and therefore they stop. I think with time it even stops coming to their mind. So this fact, he tells us, was driven home to me in the following way. Drive home means make something clearly and fully understood. Uh, he says that I understood this thing in a way which he is going to explain. For years, I had been operating a scheme of encouraging students to ask questions. Now, he, being a scientist and a person who values curiosity and questioning, he had a scheme for encouraging students to ask questions. And what was it? At the end of a public lecture, there would be the inevitable autograph seekers. Rather than giving my autograph then and there, I would announce that one could get my autograph by sending a postcard with a question relating to what I talked about, and that my answer would carry my signature. So he had this very wonderful, interesting, and clever scheme, and that was that when he went for a public lecture, he was being a well-known scientist. He would be invited to many public to deliver such lectures, and at the end of lectures, there would be inevitable means something certain to happen, bound to happen. So after that, people would come to him and say that, okay, give us autographs, which you may think, okay, do people ask scientists or scholars for autographs? Because most of us think we go for or we ask autographs from movie stars or cricket stars. But anyway, there are people, because you asked for autograph of a person whom you admire, and some of us, of course, any celebrity. So he being a scientist and a well-known person, people would come to him and ask for his autographs. So he said that I would tell them, I would announce there, in fact, that if you want to have my autograph, go home, write a postcard. Postcard used to be there before this time of telephones and internet. We used to write a letter. So on the one side there used to be the space for address, and on the other side you would write whatever you wanted to. So he says, you just send me a postcard. Why? Because it was the cheapest means um, of communication, sending a postcard. It did not cost much, and you can write a question related to the topic he has discussed in the lecture. So it's very interesting. It's a very smart thing to do, because then people would listen to him carefully, I think, for first, and then of course they would ask a question, and then in response to, he says that I would send the answer to the question and of course my signature, that would be his autograph. Seekers means it's the word comes from seek, a person who is trying to find something. To seek means to find or obtain something, like seek advice or seek God or truth. So seeker, seek, to seeker, like write, to writer, play to player, but not poem to poemer. It doesn't. So anyway, the system worked reasonably well for a while and was based on the premise that of those who rush in for an autograph of the speaker, usually only a small fraction are serious about the subject. So he says that this scheme was based on a premise. Premise is an idea or theory on which a statement or action is based. So what was that? That the people who just come to you and come rushing to you for your autographs, only a small part, small fraction, a part of that are actually serious about the subjects. Others just want to have your autographs because you are a celebrity. So this was a way of, what he says, filtering out. So only those would filter through the scheme and take the trouble to write. So the people who would go home and buy a postcard and then take trouble to write a question and post it would be actually interested in the subject. So I was only too happy to spend time replying to their questions, as they represented a spontaneous outlet to human curiosity. And he says that I would be very happy. I used to be very happy to answer their questions, because they represented genuine, curious people who wanted to know more, understand things, and he loved answering them and writing them back, and of course sending those postcards with his signatures. And in fact, he tells us that one NGO is a non-government organization in Mumbai, subsequently published a booklet. Booklet means a very small book of these question answers in Marathi under the title Science Through Postcards. So later on he collected those questions and answers, and it was published as a book, or booklet, and the title was Science Through Postcards. However, we Indians are good at misusing well-intentioned programs. So intentions means what is the aim or purpose of a thing. So he devised this, or he came up with this scheme with very good intentions, but he says Indians can misuse anything. So my intention was to encourage spontaneity in asking questions. Spontaneity, the quality of being natural rather than planned in advance, but it slowly turned otherwise. Some school teachers began to dictate questions to their class, which were to be sent to me by the students. Now, what teachers started doing, and that is why he perhaps is so irritated with the teachers. He says that they would go to their class and they would tell the students, okay, open your notebooks and I write to Professor Narlikar, and you are going to write this. So write this, and of course they would be posted them. Now, this 1 week I would receive 50 postcards identically phrased. Phrased means they would have the similar vocabulary, or expressed in the same way, written in the same way. Questions preceded by. Precede means come before. Succeed, that is come after. Precede means come before. There is another word, similar word, proceed, that means begin a course of action. So here he is talking about preceding, that means coming before. So before that question there will be by identically phrased requests for my autograph answer. So the request would be like we tell you how to write a letter, and we say, okay, I beg to say that, or I hope you are fine and I am here fine too, something like that, and all of you write the same thing. So they were made to write the same thing, requesting him to send his autographs and a question again that would be dictated by the teacher. Now his purpose was that students should come up with the questions, or any person should come up with a question for himself or herself, whatever comes to his or her mind naturally. But here it was again turned into a conformist practice where the teacher would dictate those questions, and therefore he would receive similar kind of questions or requests, and he did know that what was happening. Then there were instances of students sending in routine textbooks questions which their teacher should have answered but didn't, because the teacher said, since Dr. Narlikar is answering these questions, you better ask him rather than me. So then there were questions which are part of the textbook. Now he was not there as a scientist or as a public speaker to answer the questions which the books had or their teachers could answer. But then they said, okay, because he is responding to question, ask this question, write a postcard and ask this question, ask Narlikar. So this started happening, and reluctantly, therefore, I have now stopped that scheme. So sadly, he had to. Reluctantly means with reluctance or hesitation, unwillingly. He did not want to discontinue it, but then he started realizing that the purpose was being defeated. It was not working the way it should be, and then he stopped this scheme. Our school syllabi, teaching methods and examinations are, with a few exceptions, based on encouraging conformism and rote learning. Rote learning means learning like by mechanical repetition of something, like you learn tables or something. And syllabi is the plural of syllabus. And this is one of the ways a few plurals are made, like fungi. So he says that the way our syllabi are designed, that is in your syllabus, the way we teach in classroom, and the way our examinations are held, all of them encourage conformism. They encourage students to follow a pattern. The way things have been happening, write the same answer or similar kind of answers, and not to ask question. And rote learning means learning mechanically by repetition, just you learn and memorize it and again write it in the paper. Questions by students are discouraged for several reasons, and there are certain reasons, he says, that questions by students are discouraged. The teachers does not have the confidence to answer the questions, or the question, although a good one, may be irrelevant to the subject matter in the syllabus. So it may be the teacher does not have the confidence that he can answer the question the students are asking, because when we come prepared to the classroom, we are ready with few answers for the few questions. So a set of answers for, we can say, set of questions. But when an unexpected question comes up, the teacher may not know the answer. The teacher can accept that fact. Okay, I do not know, or I am doubtful, or may not be sure, and I can go and check. But sometimes you may say you just don't like it, and then punish the student the way that teacher punished the student who asked the question. So he says that is one of the reasons, or the questions are not relevant to the syllabus which is being, or the subject matter that is being taught in the class. Or that is one of the common problems, is that class is too big for the teacher to be able to establish one-to-one rapport with each and every pupil. rapport means a friendly or harmonious relationship, at least especially when you have to communicate with them. And pupil means student. So he says because our classes are too big, and you know it because we have 70 students in one class, so it's very difficult for the teacher to have one-to-one communication with all the students, so he has to treat them together, and that's why it becomes very difficult for them to take questions, answer questions, respond the way they should. And of course there is shortage of time for questions as the syllabus is crammed with too much matter. Cramming means to learn a lot of things in short time, especially you do when you are you have exams. So there is too much of the syllabus subject matter, and because we have this kind of system where you have to memorize them, so you are not left with much time for the questions. Whatever the reason, curiosity takes a backseat well behind memorization of the subject matter. So he says there may be many reasons and many genuine reasons, but my concern is different, that curiosity takes a backseat means to have or assume a secondary position or become less important. So it becomes less important as compared to memorization, because our examination system and pattern expects us to memorize things. So that becomes the prime focus of teaching learning experience. Curiosity is not there. Otherwise, curiosity can make learning fun, like learning new things, understanding new things, learning to do things in a new way, or solving things in a new way. All this can be thrilling and exciting, but because that key ingredient is missing, education is not much of fun. Learning is not much of fun for our students. And he says he's concerned about that. But he says we may proudly assert that this is the way our ancestors acquired knowledge, which was orally learnt and memorized and then passed on to next generation. So what? Our forefathers also learned this way. So what's big deal about that? This is the way the Vedas were handed down generation to generation. Handed down means passed on to one generation to the younger generation. So this is how Vedas, because Vedas are not written, so they were learned by the or memorized by one generation and then passed on to next, who memorized it, and so on. Uh, but he says it points or towards another fact, and that is it also tells us why we do not have the wealth of written knowledge of ancient origin as in the West or China, because we memorized it and passed on to another generation. We do not have, that is the reason we do not have the wealth of written knowledge of ancient origin the way the West had, or China had. So that's all for today. We will meet for another video on the same chapter, that is it's question time. Thank you.